Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Shane McGuigan here at McGuigan's Gym in East London. How you doing?
Good, thanks Danny, mate. You good?
I'm very good, thank you. Enjoyed the day here so far. I'm sure it's only going to get better now we're talking. Fingers crossed, no pressure. Let's go through your fighters. Obviously you've got a couple in action next week, starting with Chris Billam-Smith, main event against Isaac Chamberlain. Kind of a dangerous fight for... It seems like Chamberlain maybe has more to gain from this one. Is it a risk in your view?
Yeah, that's a very good point. He has got a little bit more to gain, but everything is on Chris's terms. It's his home show, it's headlining, it's against another good competitive fight. It's not a world title fight in terms of, like, it's not against a Gulamarian or a killer up at the top. It's against the guy that he should beat. It's scheduled as a 50-50, and if you look at talent-wise, Isaac Chamberlain's got more talent than most people, but his career has been stalled and stagnated, and he's had a lot of issues with his career. So, but he hasn't had a live fight since Lawrence Okoli. Really, he had beat Watkins, which he should have beaten, and he beat Prasovic, and it remains to be seen how good Prasovic was. He got stopped in 3 rounds or 4 rounds by Okoli, but it was a very tentative fight for Lawrence. He was trying to find the right shot, and Chamberlain got hurt in the first round and then stopped him. So he came on. That was probably his best opponent since Lawrence Okoli, which was a long time ago. And I think if you look at like activity, competitive fights, being in deep situations for a long period of time, Chris has had that constantly for the last couple of years, so it's put him in a lot better stead.
You've also got Hassan Azim on the card. I think Adam's going to be back out in September. How pleased are you so far with their development?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Hass because he's boxing next week. He's going to do welterweight for now, but he's 21. I don't know how. I think he'll do it pretty easy, to be honest. He's a huge puncher, like a genuinely huge puncher. He's dropped so many people in the gym, and it just doesn't look like that. He looks like skinny frame and super friendly when you walk in the door, and next thing you know you're on the canvas looking at him, and I think that's what's going to sort of be a great selling point for us with Hassan. Like, people will think that they can beat him, and they're gonna think that they're more than capable of like putting it on him and beating him up, and then he'll walk them onto shots because he's got good feet, he's got great jab, good long range punches, and he can whack like hell. And he's just getting better all the time. The fact that he's 21, he's in a gym where he's learning all the time. He's learning from the likes of Chris, Robbie, how to fight on the inside, learning from Ellie, Caroline, all of the different styles. They're all there on show for him to sort of pick up and choose which way he really wants to fight. But the developments, he's just getting better all the time, and I'm excited to see what he can really achieve.
And what about Adam? He seems to have kind of attracted the spotlight a bit more than his brother, which takes some of the pressure off Hassan, I suppose, as well. What are your views on Adam and how quick he's moving?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sound around him. Do you know what I mean? And that's probably come from myself, the way I talk about him and the way the way people are sort of they understand when I say he's a freak of nature. He's an unbelievable fighter. People, they know that I've dealt with world champions, unified world champions, 2-weight world champions and stuff. So that goes a long way. He still hasn't boxed anyone of real merit. Conor Marsden was a decent challenge. That didn't last very long. His last fight was, he just blew him out of there. So it's now for us to sort of say, all right, let's go through some domestic names. Let's build him up with some decent challenges within the UK, and then let's start giving him some international opponents, get him European title, maybe a Commonwealth European, British or whatever, and then move on to the fringe world level. But I think that whole progression won't take longer than 2.5 years. So yeah, people are going to be in for an exciting time because he can really fight.
You got Lawrence Okoli, of course. A lot of speculation about him. We saw Maris Bridis lose his world title recently to Jay Opatea as well. What's the next move for Lawrence now?
Yeah, Lawrence is he's still in contract with Matchroom. They had another fight on his contract. It's a bit of a sort of sticky situation with Lawrence. Him and his team are sorting that out at the moment. He didn't think he had another fight left because he didn't really sign it off, but they did have another fight left in the contract. So just a bit of a stalling process, unfortunately, in his career. He should hopefully be out at the end of the year, but for now he's out of the gym. He's just sorting all of that out. He's out in Dubai enjoying his life. A lot of this stuff is very stressful and stuff like that. So he should be back. Training soon. But I would say we're looking at tail end of the year for him.
Is it a little awkward for him now in that it seemed like he wanted to go elsewhere? There's still a fight left on the deal, and now they've got to work together again. A bit like Joshua going back to Sky, if that's where that fight ends up. It's like you think you've made a clean break, and then you're forced to work with those people again. Yeah,
I mean, he can either be forced to, or he can part ways and sort of buy his way out of his last fight. So that's Lawrence's decision. Let's see what comes about. But you're right. It's never nice to be in that situation, have that bitter taste in your mouth. So let's hope that it doesn't end too badly, and that he can continue his career, because there's nothing worse than something stalling your career. You saw it with Andre Ward in his career. I mean, you see it in America. They can stop you boxing, whereas in the UK the border control override it. But then there can still be court cases and stuff outside of it, but you can still fight, whereas in America they just completely shut you down from boxing. So hopefully that doesn't happen with him, and he's still able to crack on with his career. But you just never want that lingering over your shoulder, knowing that you've upset people, or you owe this or owe that, and it just doesn't really allow you to be getting the best out of yourself. So let's hope that things can sort themselves out in relatively quick time.
Daniel Dubois, latest champion in the gym, of course, WBA heavyweight, beat Trevor Bryan pretty easily, and a very explosive finish as well. Where does he go from here? Because in terms of quality of opposition, presumably he can step up. It will still be for the same title.
Yeah, I mentioned it straight after the fight that I would love the Dillian Whyte fight, and people kind of shot me down for it. And a lot of people think that Dan would win, and a lot of people think that Dillian would win with the experience and stuff. But I think that's the sort of fight that we need for Daniel next. It's Trevor Bryant could have been a slippery night's work, but Daniel just took him out and knocked him out. But it's not to say that if he'd have boxed somebody else that he wouldn't have given a better account of himself. It's just Daniel, his punches so hard, and he went into his shell and knocked him out clean. So disappointing the fact that we didn't get the full eyeballs and the attention. If Frank had won the purse bids, it would have been a much better show. There would have been a lot better viewing figures and a lot more traction created from that fight. But now it's just down to the next one. It's down to see who we can get. Derek Chisora, Don Charles in the gym today, he brought a lad over, and I keep winding him up saying, does Derek want his world title shot? Because that's a fight that we would love. Derek Chisora is a great fight, just come off a win against Pulo. I know he's had more than a handful of losses on his record, but he's always been in. Usyk, he gave a good account, went to points, it was reasonably close. Joseph Parker was close. Dillian Whyte was close the first time, obviously second time he got knocked out, but very rarely has he not showed up and given a bad account of himself. He's always been in great competitive fights, and I think that for us is a great measuring stick to see where we are at when it comes to world level, and just for a name. He'll be throwing tables at us or whatever. Sorry, Dillian was the one that threw the tables, but either way, one of the tables is going to get thrown at us, and it's going to be exciting. So hopefully we can get a big fight, like a big British fight, made pretty soon. So that allows Dan to sort of showcase what he's truly capable of, because he boxed Joe Joyce in an empty arena, obviously because of COVID times. Didn't show up, didn't perform to his best ability, and people can sit there slating him. But trust me, I think in the next 12 to 18 months you're going to be seeing him in competitive fights and on the right side of the verdict at the end.
Chisora did throw the table. It nearly hit Mark Tibbs in the head. Yeah. He was training Dillian at the time. Mark Tibbs turned the air very blue that day, I believe. Anthony Fowler, what's the latest with him? He's up at middleweight now. Looked good when we saw him. Will we see him back out again soon? I know he's just welcomed his second child. Yeah,
he has. He's out of the gym. He was out in Miami, and then the baby, I think, came a little bit earlier, so he went back up the road. And I said, there was a fight offered to us, a decent British fight that was offered to us for July the 9th, and we chose against it because of the circumstances. And he had when he boxed Liam Smith, he just had his baby, and then he went he boxed a fight just before Billam-Smith, spent 4 nights in the hospital, and then went that same week boxed, and then he went straight into camp, and he didn't really get that time to be able to spend with his family. So you don't get those hours and days back, that amazing time with your children and stuff. So I think it's the right move for him to be back up the road, spending time with his family, enjoying his newborn daughter, and then he'll look to get out once again tail end of the year. If we can get him an October, November date, maybe even a December date, and I think it would be great to get him either a British title or a European title. We're speaking to Matchroom at the moment to see who we can get lined up for him. So yeah, I think we'll see what comes about with that one.
Would it have been Felix Cash on July 9th?
Yeah, it was Felix Cash. But if he had the British title still, it would have been great. I mean, we'd have, look, he is a former British champion, but he doesn't have it, so it's nothing to win. He doesn't have the European either, so it's like we can't be short-sighted with Ant's career. Do you know what I mean? You can't just jump in for a big payday and just with nothing really on the line. I think when he reflects on his career at the end of boxing, he's won a Commonwealth Games gold medal, he's gone to the Olympics, he's won a bronze medal at the World Championships, he's turned professional, and he hasn't won a Commonwealth, British or European or a world title yet. So it's up to us to make sure that he can either fight. Look, Commonwealth isn't really it's not one of them belts that you reflect back on, but if he can win a British title, if he can win a European title, great. And then if we gamble and go for a world title, then that's amazing.
You've got another Scouser in the gym, of course, in Robbie Davies Jr. Some mixed fortunes while he's been here, but still in the prime of his career, arguably. What's next for him? Yeah,
I mean, we've been offered a couple of big fights for Robbie. It just needs to make sense. Do you know what I mean? Montana Love has been talked about, Regis Prograis has been talked about, but I think he's with Pro Bellum, so we won't be going over there. But he's got a couple of, depends where we want to go. Josh Taylor's just been vacated the WBC, he got stripped of his WBA. There's two belts that's become vacant now. So from now on, he's won the British, he's won the Commonwealth, he's won European, he's achieved a lot as a professional. Now we need to get ourselves in the right position to fight either for a world title or there or thereabouts. Do you know what I mean? A top 10 contender, but also someone that we feel confident that he can beat. So it's a waiting game at the moment, but we're working on a few things behind the scenes, and hopefully we can have some news of end of October, November date.
Switching over to the female boxers, you've got Ellie Scotney. She's a guest on our podcast tonight as we film this. Hopefully I'll have to put it out now. What do you make of her development, and next one world title shot presumably?
Yep, she's boxing on a big card in London early October for a world title. That's in the contract. We're scheduled to fight for a world title. If we can't secure a world title, then we'll have to fight someone of good recognition. But yeah, I think we're going to be fighting for a world title next, and at super bantamweight. So excited times.
We're going to talk about the potential main event of that card in a bit. You've also got Caroline Dubois, a bit earlier in her journey than Ellie, but very, very talented, as we all saw at the Olympics. What do you make of her progression so far, and how fast can she be moved?
She's boxing next Saturday, and then she's boxing again on September the 10th. We're scheduled on the Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall undercard, which is great for boxing. So it's scheduled to be an all female card, which is going to be amazing. So if we get 2 fights out there, then I think she'll probably be doing 6 in this one. We might push it to 8 rounds in the next one, maybe a couple of 8-rounders, and then we'll crack on for titles. Bit similar to what we did with Ellie. We'll put her in against opponents that she can beat, but over the 10-round distance. And the thing is with the lightweight division, it's booming. You've got Katie Taylor that holds all of the belts, and but there's a lot of great opponents there, and she actually has the power and frame to be able to go up to 147. I think maybe even up to light middleweight. So, but she's 21 years of age, got so much potential, improving all the time. In here, we need to get her to be calm on fight night. She lets the occasion get to a little bit. She's used to boxing on amateur shows where there's not a lot of TV yet. There's literally people go unnoticed there. So the attention's on her a little bit more. cameras are on her, and I think that is as big of an experience for Carolina as actually boxing. You know, she's going to beat all of these girls with her eyes closed. It's actually just going through the process, doing it and still performing and not letting the whole occasion get to her. So boxing her regular, and you know, she's got 5 fights this year. So yeah, so she's going to be doing 6 in the next one, 8 in the one after that, maybe 8 after that, and then we'll go to title fights. So I'm looking to push her on pretty quick, but I think she's going to be, yeah, if she can master everything else and like calm the nerves, I think she's going to be one of the best female fighters.
Your gym's absolutely thriving, very, very busy as well, but there were strong rumours heading into the aborted fight between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury that Tommy was going to train for that fight here. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we were in talks, doing a bit of back and forth. I think obviously with his dad not being able to travel to America, we had spent some time together in Cleveland. He did a few days, and then we were going to go out to New York to announce the fight, and obviously got stopped in customs. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of background between me and MTK. You know, it's pretty common that we don't get on and that we don't work together. And I asked Tommy if there was any, you know, if there was any relationship there, and there was not at all. So you know, and I was assured on different occasions that he'd never wore any of the gear. There was no affiliation there. So for me, I was, you know, it's just the fact that it's his name, isn't it? His brother's one of the main faces of that organisation. There's a lot of people getting clamped and stopped from going out to America. There's 600 ban lists. So and if they can stop something like Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, the FBI and the people on the other side are doing a big thing. So it's just unfortunate that it's come at Tommy's expense, because you know he hasn't had an affiliation there. So it's disappointing. But you know, for me, I thought he could have won the fight, and I genuinely believed he can win the fight. He's got a lot more than what he showed, and he can learn. He's a young guy. He's got a good jab. He's got a good right hand. We didn't have long to work together, but it was, yeah, there was a lot of potential there. So he comes from a very good fighting family, and they know their way around, you know, around the boxing ring. So yeah, it's a shame. Maybe the fight can get announced at a later date, but for now, it's out of his control.
So were you present at the airport when he was stopped?
I turned up a bit after, but yeah.
He must have been pretty shaken up, I would imagine.
I can't speak for him, but no.
No, I mean once you arrived.
There,
no,
it was disappointment. Yeah, just disappointment.
And moving on to, we talked about Ellie Scotney being on the undercard of a big show in October. We expect that to be Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. Not been officially announced as yet, but rumours are very strong it's going to be. What do you make of that fight, particularly the weight disparity between the two?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing for Chris Eubank to be dropping down to 156 pounds. I think there's a lot of clauses in the contract that he can be 166 the next morning. And they're trying to push it quite late, so he has to keep that weight and hold it for a bit longer than he wants to. But his size, he has the size advantage, he has the experience. He doesn't walk around super heavy. It's not like he's way overweight now, cutting from 190 pounds or 185 pounds, what a lot of middleweights cut from. He's at a different. He's sort of at a different frame. You know, he always keeps himself lean. But the thing is I just don't quite understand what's going on with Conor. I mean, like, he's in a really good position. He's got some great momentum. And now he's going in against a very good middleweight. You know, yes, there's 4 pounds down and there's a rehydration course, but it doesn't make him instantly a bad fighter. And I really like Conor. I think he's a great lad. I think he's doing great. He's draws a lot of attention. He holds himself really well. He talks well. He's boxed not live, not people at the peak of their career, but still big names, and he's got a lot of good momentum there, and he's performing really well. But I just think it's a silly fight to make. Just my opinion, because it's short-sighted. You know, I understand Errol Spencer's a nightmare, Terence Crawford's a nightmare, Jaron Ennis is a nightmare, but Keith Thurman's very beatable. Ugas is beatable.
Stanionis as well.
Yeah, these people are winnable fights with a lot of clout and merit from winning those fights. Yes, there's going to be a big pay when it comes to Eubank Jr. So it's a big stand for DAZN to get a massive fight like that, and that's something that they need. So I understand it when it comes to Eddie's side, but from Conor's side, I think, I just think he should assess that, because it just looks a little bit short-sighted, and it's more, he's built up. Tony Sims and him have done an amazing job. They're progressing with every fight. He's maturing as a man, as a fighter, and it's like, pick it at the right time, and it just doesn't feel like it's the right time for him, for me.
Just before I let you go, I believe your partner is expecting your child. Yeah. When is it due? And you must be delighted.
Yeah, early September. So got a busy schedule. Got to try and time that one, really. So I don't want to be at a show and then being called straight to the hospital. So yeah, it's due on the 8th. So let's hope. Little boy.
First child, isn't it?
It is the first child. Yeah.
You must be over the moon.
I'm buzzing.
Congratulations.
Thanks, mate.